So we are just finishing up our studies of the koshas of the book we're reading, Light on Life. So the koshas being the sheath, the layers of who we are, just a little review, would be our outermost layer being our physical body. Next layer of who you are is your energy body, prana, and then the next layer of who you are, the mind body. And then we're moving in deeper. So the next one is the wisdom, exactly. And then last week we talked about bliss. We talked about Anandamaya kosha and samadhi. So at the very depth of all this lies what? That's this week's studies. What is this week? The Atman, which translates as the soul, or the essence of who you are. You know, last week we talked about all the I ams, and I kind of compared them to like coats that we put on, like I am a mother, you know, I am a surf instructor, I am a yoga teacher, I am a businesswoman, I am, you know, all these things that we put, I say, are like coats that we put on that, you know, we can take off. Even if I am a woman, there was a time I was a child, you know. And so underneath all those coats and layers and stuff is the essence of who we are, which the yogi believes is the soul, the very essence. Aside from all that, there's this part of us, the yogi believes, that will live on past this body. So it's a beautiful study for us this week, and a little bit more philosophical than some of our other studies, but so important to me that as your yoga teacher, that it's something that we talk about and that we sit with from time to time. And I love the way Iyengar described it in his book at the beginning of this chapter, which, by the way, what was the name of this chapter? As we study the soul, what did he call that? What did he refer to this study as? Freedom. Liberation. So he was saying, if we're in the state we talked about last week of bliss, if we're in the state of samadhi or Anandamaya kosha, he said you can't go and catch a bus. This was his example, right? Because what would happen if you were in this state of samadhi? You'd miss the bus, right? So he's like, so there's that. He's like, but at the same time, he's like, I have to wake up in the morning and put my clothes on, you know? So I kind of compare this to this idea of, you know, going to the mountaintop, you know, where this idea, we go to the mountaintop to meditate, and sometimes it feels so good and you love it so much, you don't ever want to come down from the mountaintop. But if you'd gone to India and met Pattabhi Jois and felt like that was your pilgrimage and your mountaintop, you know, he would say, you go home. You know, at some point we have to take the teachings into our lives. And that's really what it's all about. You know, we're all grihastas. That means that we're all householders. And we're supposed to take this beautiful practice that actually unites us and connects us to our soul and take that into our lives. So the analogy I was thinking of this week when I was preparing the teachings for you guys was this rectangular piece of plastic that we call our mat. I want you guys to start thinking of it as your mountaintop. So every time you roll out this mat, you're climbing to the mountaintop for your meditation, for you to move into that state of connecting all the layers of who you are. And then when we finish our hour-and-a-half primary series today on the mountaintop, what are we going to do? We're going to stay here all day and then do some chanting? And no, we're going to roll up our mountaintop, stick it under our arms, and go and drive your cars and shop for your meals and see your children and make phone calls and go to work and all the things that we need to do. But the idea of this beautiful practice that we're doing is we're going to take it into everything that we do, that rather than being separate from, like living in that external world, like, you know, we know it's all important, like, yeah, I've got to wake up in the morning and I got to put my clothes on. Yeah, I've got to drive my car and I got to do all these things. And sometimes when we get so involved in all those things we do, we feel very disconnected from the essence of who we are, which is our soul. Just in that sort of, we call it like the daily grind, right? So I was thinking, when I prepare my teachings for you guys for Sundays, I feel like it's one of the things that I do in my life that I'm so connected to my soul. The best preparation is when I kind of get out of my own way and I feel that total connection to that, almost like it sort of moves through me. And that's like, there's that connection. But I was saying, well, what about when I need to put gas in my car and I'm filling the gas tank and And I see the numbers clicking, 20, 30, 40, right? And just what's rolling around in my brain while I'm filling my gas tank, you know? Is my soul present in that? It's meant to be present in every part of my life, you know? So these teachings, it more and more brings us to this place where, my soul is fully aware, fully with me when I'm preparing the teachings, but can my soul be fully present when I'm doing the most mundane thing, like putting gas in my car, or being the most connected to the random thoughts that are like running around in my head? And I believe that it can. And I believe the more we show up on the mountaintop just on a regular basis and do the practice and clear those waters we talked about and calm the mind, that we more and more can get into this beautiful place of that connection that we want to have all the time, right? Is there ever a time in your life where you're like, yeah, I don't want my soul as part of that, right? No, yeah, it's good here, but no, I don't want my soul connected when I'm doing this thing over here. Absolutely not. We want that as a part of everything that we do. So I want to tell you guys, I think there are two things as I really thought about my soul and how I nurture my soul that I do, as well as my teaching, that for me is both my medicine and my gift. And one is my connection to nature. You know, I think all of you can just think of a time in your life where all of a sudden you looked up and saw the stars and they so struck you in a way that in that moment, everything else went away and you just were so connected to something deep within you. And it was profound. You know, or God, this morning I looked outside and it was pink outside. The whole world was pink and purple. And then as I looked in the corner, the moon was still out. You know, and we just have these powerful moments where we connect to nature, and it connects us to the very essence of our soul and who we are, and all the others, I got up and dressed today, and all our little worries and troubles and things that we do for that moment disappear, and we have this profound connection. And I feel like that is our gift and our medicine, and that we need that we actually need time in nature, like I need time on my mat to connect to the soul of who I am, the very essence of who I am. And the other thing that I want all of you to sit with today that's very profound for me as I was thinking about the teachings, the other time in my life that takes me directly to my soul is this thing called death, my immortality. So if there's ever a time where you guys were, I don't know, you had something happen where maybe you were hit by a car, or a moment where you thought you might have had a diagnosis, or someone you loved was sick or something, and you know in those moments that all the little things in life just go away in that second. In that moment, you are so connected to your soul, and there's nothing else in between. Have you had that experience before? I think all of us have had on some level that experience before, and being so moving and bringing you to the very essence of what it's all about. So I just want to read to you one of my favorite pieces from a book called Run by Ann Patchett that for me sort of describes that. It's not poetry, but I feel like it reads like poetry, so if you want to close your eyes. This is taken from a part of the book where this priest is preparing to die. He's lived a great, wonderful, long life, and this is a part where he's contemplating his death. And I'll try not to cry through it, but it probably won't happen. Now that his heart has become so shiftless and unreliable, now that he should be sensing the afterlife like a sweet scent drifting in from the garden, he had started to wonder if there was any afterlife at all. Look at all those true believers who wanted only to live. Look at himself clinging onto his life like a squirrel scrambling up the icy pitch of a roof, in suggesting that there was nothing ahead of them. He in no way meant to diminish the future. Instead, Father Sullivan hoped to elevate it to the present to a state of the divine. It seemed from this moment of repose that God may have well been life itself. How wrong-headed it seemed now to think that the thrill of the heartbeat and breath were stepping stones to something greater. Life itself was holy. He had been brought forth from nothing to see the face of God, and in this life he had seen it miraculously for 74 years. Why wouldn't it stand to reason that this had been the whole of his existence, and now he would retreat back into nothingness he had come from, in order to let someone else have their chance at the view. This is not the working of disbelief, but instead the final joyful realization of all that he had been given. So when I read this, I think of those moments in life when we stop in our tracks and we face our immortality, or someone that we love's immortality. And we realize that it is the preciousness of each day and each moment of our lives, and how much we want to bring our souls into every little thing, every little part of what we do. It's kind of like my favorite quote by Annie Dillard that you all know: how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. And in those precious moments when we have that reflection, it brings us to that. And hopefully we have such a profound connection to that we take that forward into our livings. I wanted to end this particular conference with just a moment of silence for all of us, to just take a moment to go from the outermost part of who we are, which is our bodies and our daily lives and all the things that we need to do to survive and get by and all of that, and make the journey in through your energy and your mind and your wisdom and your bliss to that place that we all refer to or know as the soul or the essence of who we are. And just take a moment of silence. Be present. And when you're ready, make your way back to the front of your mat for Samastitihi. We'll bring that into our practice.